Hi, and welcome back. In this lecture, we'll be talking about the Industry 4.0 environment. In this lecture, we'll be talking about several subjects. The first one would be what Industry 4.0 environment is. And we'll also be talking about cyber physical systems or CPS. We'll also be talking about the different forms of internet which will be used in the Industry 4.0. Those would be the Internet of Things known as the IoT, as well as the Industrial Internet of Things known as IIoT, as well as the Internet of Services known as iOS, and the Internet of People known as IoP, and the Internet of Data known as IoT, and the Internet of Everything IoE, which is a combination of all the other aspects. This is the Industry 4.0 environment. It has Internet of Things, Internet of Services, Internet of People, and Internet of Data. It also has several components like smart mobility, smart grids, smart logistics, business web, social web, smart homes, and smart buildings. One of the key things to note is that Industry 4.0 evolves around this concept called smart factories. Well, you might be wondering, what exactly are these smart things about? Let me get to the point. So let's start off with smart mobility. Smart mobility is basically putting sensors and connecting cars to the internet. Well, what are the advantages of smart mobility? Basically, cars will talk to each other and sort of give real-time information about traffic, and if an accident has happened, cars can go to a different route, things like that. Smart grid is basically we will put sensors on the electricity grid to sort of monitor how the grid behaves in certain situations, and based on that we can able to take proactive decisions, like when there's a high demand we can add more supplies to that, and when there's low demand we can reduce that and provide it to a area where there's a high demand, and we can basically shut down certain components of the grid when it's not being used, things like that. If you take smart logistics, we will be basically able to track every single movement of goods from all the way around the world. Let's take, for example, you buy something from China and you're in the United States. You will be able to track in real time what you have bought and where it is located and how it's being processed. So business web is basically the web that we use in our day-to-day life, from YouTube to Udemy to things like that. And social web is basically social media like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Smart homes is basically we will be putting sensors in our homes, from smart door locks to toasters to refrigerators. Basically, all the devices in your house will be able to connect with each other. For example, your water tank will be able to tell you what are the consumptions. Your washing machine will be able to communicate with the water tank and tell, okay, today I use this amount of water. I need this amount of water for these days. Maybe your lights can automatically switch on and off based on your needs. Smart buildings is basically buildings will have a lot of sensors, things to monitor everything from electricity to air conditioning to ventilation to exhaust emissions to carbon emissions and things like that. So cyber physical systems are basically systems that have sensors. It's basically has a physical component as well as a digital component, meaning it's connected to the internet. Smart factory is basically made out of cyber physical systems. It can take proactive decisions and help to make predictive analysis on what the demand is, what the current production ratio is, and how to improve things, and what are the things that are likely to be broken, the bottlenecks of the production system, things like that. moving on to cyber physical systems. So basically, a cyber physical system is systems that are controlled and monitored by computer-based algorithms that are tightly integrated with related systems and users via the internet. You might be wondering what an algorithm is. It's basically a process, a series of steps that a computer is given to make calculations and comparisons and other problem solving operations. So basically, something like a drone or a robot can be considered as a cyber physical system. Internet of Things. This is one of the key components of Industry 4.0. Internet of Things is basically a computing concept where everyday physical objects like your light bulb, your toaster, your washing machine, your fridge is added a computing device and is connected to the internet. So basically IoT devices can talk to each other because they share the same language. Right? For example, your door can communicate with the lights, and when the door is unlocked by you, it can tell you, okay, the owner has arrived, switch these lights on, things like that. And to enable IoT, we need very high speed networking infrastructure, which I will be talking in the later lectures, and also a shared communication protocol, basically to share information about each other. So devices need a shared platform to communicate with each other, and this is known as machine to machine communication, M2M. This is vital for successful IoT implementation. Industrial Internet of Things, IIoT. So IIoT is all about the industrial application of Internet of Things. So basically it's this whole ecosystem of interconnected sensors, instruments and devices in a networked environment talking to each other and sharing information to enhance the industrial and manufacturing process. For example, in a car manufacturing factory, all the robots will talk to each other and say, this is the component that I am fixing and this is the component that you will be fixing. And all the exact specifications will be exchanged to ensure that a car is manufactured according to the manufacturer's specifications. Next, we have Internet of Services. So basically, Internet of Services is a global marketplace of internet-based software applications which are offered as services. So iOS basically includes services like cloud computing, where companies can access an enormous amount of resources using a simple service. And also things like blockchain, which is considered to be a game changer in the supply chain marketplace. So blockchain is basically a distributed database, and it enables to track every single movement within the database. For IoT to function, it needs iOS, and a combination of IoT and iOS is required for Industry 4.0 to happen. Internet of People. So basically, Internet of People is this new paradigm of the internet that's emerging where humans and their personal devices are not just considered as end users of the system, but rather as active and involving elements of the internet. So basically, IOP will run on a decentralized platform like the blockchain, where data and information of people are not stored on a single server or does not belong to a single company. Internet of People aims to be the internet for the people and of the people. So basically, it will empower people and not sacrifice their privacy and identity. Next, we have the Internet of Data. So Internet of Data is built on the immense amount of data generated by IoT as well as IIoT. As you might be well aware right now, the Internet of Things will have billions of sensors around the world, and they will generate massive amounts of data. So we need to come up with a method of collating those data using big data analytics, which is basically using analytic tools to exploit and understand patterns of a large quantity of data. So basically these tools will enable us to identify trends. For example, customer purchasing patterns and how electricity is used and how water is used, and sort of create a much more sustainable and eco-friendly environment to maximize the resource usage to increase the efficiency of our systems around the world. And here we come to the Internet of Everything. So basically, the Internet of Everything is an integration of all the previously discussed Internet of Things, Internet of Services, Internet of People, Industrial Internet of Things, and Internet of Data. They all make up this thing called Internet of Everything. It's basically an integration of people, process, data, and things to a single, unified, and extremely complex network system. So I believe that you have gained a basic understanding of what Internet of Things is and what the Industrial Internet of Things is, what iOS is, and the Internet of People, as well as the Internet of Data, and finally the Internet of Everything. So in our next lecture, we'll be talking about the evolution of industrial revolutions. See you there.